Hello there, thanks for stopping by. I'm so excited. We are going to make velvety meatloaf with magical sauce today. And I'll explain later why the sauce is magical. I actually feel the sauce is magical. So I have a very weird history with meatloaf. When I was a kid, the person who raised me was not a very good cook. And so my idea of meatloaf was this gray slab with some green peppers and onions in it, and it never tasted good, and I always had to eat it even though I didn't want to. And then when I got older, I discovered what meatloaf really is, and now it is one of my most favorite foods. And this recipe is my favorite recipe. It's a little involved and it makes a huge meatloaf, a 3-pound meatloaf, a free-formed, not in a loaf pan. But the great thing about it is it freezes so well. I slice it up, put it in individual packages, and whenever I am craving meatloaf, I just go to the freezer and I've got meatloaf. So let's jump in and get started. I have all my ingredients measured, chopped, ready to go, which is really important for a recipe like this that has a lot of ingredients. That way you don't miss anything and you don't put things in the wrong order. So you're going to want to get yourself prepared. So I'm going to start with the meat. This is a trifecta of meat, I call it. I've got ground beef, ground pork, come on, and then ground veal. The beef is going to bring a minerality and an earthiness to the flavor profile. The pork is going to give some much needed fat, and the veal is going to give a nice lusciousness. So this trio of meats is going to create a very luscious, velvety meatloaf. You definitely need that. And so the three main ingredients as far as vegetables or aromatics is I've got onions, carrots, and celery. Now when you chop these for the meatloaf, you're going to want to chop them very, very finely. It takes a little while, it's a bit of work, but if you don't want to do that, then go ahead and use a food processor and pulse it so that you've got small pieces. You don't want to go too far and get like a puree going on. And if you are doing it by hand, it's always good to go through and do one last chop for all three of these so that you can get the pieces a little bit smaller. So I've got the onions, celery, and I know this is probably a weird ingredient for meatloaf, but carrots. It's going to add a great flavor, and it's carrots, so it's, you know, say this is a healthy meatloaf. Okay, some of the other ingredients, I have about a cup and a half of breadcrumbs. Now we make our own breadcrumbs with half our sandwich bread recipe, which you can catch that video here, and half of our baguette recipe, which you can catch that video here when we release it in a few weeks. And we dry it in the oven and then we grind it. So we love our own breadcrumbs. But if you don't make your own breadcrumbs, you can buy them. There's 2 or 3 gluten-free breadcrumb brands at the store. So I've got a cup and a half of the breadcrumbs. I have an egg that I beat slightly beforehand. I've got garlic. Of course, you have to have garlic. Ton of parsley. Lots of chopped parsley, chopped very, very fine. And then Dijon mustard, which I'm going to need a spoon to get out of this bowl here. Worcestershire, I can really say that, really. Worcestershire, no, I can't. And some kosher salt and pepper, which I have together in one bowl. So at this stage, you have a choice. You can get your hands dirty or you can use a spoon. I personally like to get my hands dirty, so I'm going to go in here and I'm going to fold all this together. I don't know, I like the way it feels when your hands get in the food. Okay, I've been mixing this for a little while. I'm kind of going through and folding and then kind of squeezing it through my fingers to mix it together. It feels really good. It's moist, but it's not wet. And it looks like I got a really good distribution of ingredients. So at this stage, most of you will probably be putting it either in a loaf pan, well, not in this case, there is no loaf pan involved, or forming it. But the thing to do now is to grab a little of it and make yourself a little patty. And we're going to cook this on the stove because we want to test the flavor. We want to see if there's enough salt and pepper in there. So I'm going to go throw this on the stove and we're going to cook it up. And while test patty is cooking, we are going to make the magic sauce. It has some sugar in it, it has some Worcestershire and some Dijon, and it's such a great combination with the savoriness of the meat. Now I have a bunch of ketchup because in this recipe, I've kind of doubled the sauce because I like to save some and put it on the meatloaf as I'm eating it, or I save some in the freezer. So if I make, a meatloaf meal, I have some left. So I've got ketchup and I'm adding Worcestershire and Dijon. And this is to cut the sugar because that's 2 tablespoons of brown sugar in here. And so I want to give a little bit more flavor and not just be sugar in ketchup because ketchup has sugar in it anyway. So the goal here is not to be too sugary. So it's real simple. You just whisk it all together and taste to see if it needs anything else. And I'm going to do that. Sometimes I'll add a little salt to it, but I think it's going to be fine. Oh yeah. That's magical. My patty has cooked on the stove. It's all done. I'm going to try it for the first time. It's really hot. Oh, it smells amazing. So what I'm tasting for is seasoning level. Oh, and it is spot on. Here, let me just have one more bite and we'll get to it. So now we're going to freeform our meatloaf. So I'm going to grab parts of it. I'm not going to throw the whole bowl down here. It's going to get a good start. If you've never free-formed a meatloaf, it's actually kind of fun. I find it fun. I start by making kind of like a log, and then I keep adding to it. You're going to end up with kind of a rectangle. But you could do what you want. If you want an oval, if you want a circle, if you want a square, you do whatever you want. It'll work just the same. Unless you've got it piled up into a point, then you're probably going to have a problem because you want to try to have the same depth all the way around so that it cooks evenly. Okay, so I've got my meat on here. And now I'm just going to work on creating something a little more level. That's why mine is going to be a rectangle because I find it's probably going to be the most level cooking size or shape, I should say, for more even cooking. Okay, let's go get this end and square that end up. And I've got some parchment I've sprayed with cooking spray so that it doesn't stick. You could go right onto the sheet pan, but it's just going to be an easier cleanup with the parchment. Okay. Okay. We're pretty solid here. Pretty even. I'm liking this a lot. I got one little dent over here I'd like to get rid of. But let's be clear, it probably in the end does not matter. You don't need to be as particular about it as I am. Okay, that looks amazing. Okay, so the next step is to add the magical sauce. I'm going to give it a nice stir. Add it around. So this is going to bake on top and caramelize and be absolutely amazing. So I like to get it all the way on top and get it on the sides too. Not real heavy on the sides, but just like to get some of it on there. And you can choose to use all of this or some of this, however much sauce you want. I like a lot. I want it to be highly magical. A highly magical meatloaf. What are you having for dinner? Oh, we're having magic meatloaf. Yeah, some people might think you're crazy, but don't worry about that. Okay, kind of liking the way that is looking. Okay, I think we're done here. I have a little sauce left over. So I like to put the meatloaf in the oven with a temperature probe so I know when it hits 160, which is the goal. Probably the safest, easiest way to do it is to take your probe when it's not hooked to the actual temperature gauge. Oops, on this side got left off. Hold on, can't leave you out of it. Okay, and so I'm going to put it in this side here because I know I'm going in the oven this way, and then this is going to come out of the oven and sit on the counter. So this is the best place. So I'm going all the way in with it. Okay, so I'm going to take this to the oven, put it in the oven, make sure I have this outside the oven, and then I'm going to plug it into the thermometer. The meatloaf is out of the oven, and I am one step away from putting it in my mouth, which I cannot wait. I've got my knife, I've got my fork. let's just get right into this. Okay, I'm gonna cut a little slice over here. Right on the end, which the end is perfect. Oh, okay. So that might be too big of a slice. Oh God, this is hard to cut little slices with. Okay, here we go. First taste. Oh. Sorry, I gotta take another one. Heavenly, velvety, amazing meatloaf. It only took about an hour and 5 minutes. Now every oven is different. That's why you put the probe in the side so you know exactly when your interior hits 160. You don't overcook it, you don't undercook it. Overcooking it can make it a little too crumbly, so you want to make sure not to do that. This is just absolutely perfect and what I love, and I think I'm going to have some more later and dip it in my sauce, in the magic sauce, because it is quite magical. Now this would go really, really well with mashed potatoes, and I've made it with mashed potatoes, and we have a luscious and creamy dairy-free mashed potato recipe, and the link will be right up here. And when I make mashed potatoes and meatloaf, I also like to make green bean bundles, which are super cute and delicious, and they're green beans wrapped in bacon. You find that recipe right here as well. So you could have an entire meal. Now this would be a great Sunday meal. Meatloaf, mashed potatoes, green bean bundles. Oh, that'd be so good. I don't even think I could eat all day. I wouldn't eat all day. I would just wait and eat the meal, and then that would be all I had that day because it would be so darn good. Well, thank you so much for watching. I hope that you make this and enjoy this as much as I do. If you like this video, give us a thumbs up. And if you haven't subscribed yet, hit that subscribe button, enable notifications, because we have new videos every Wednesday and Sunday, so you'll be the first to know when we do. And until next time, happy eating.